Hey guys, welcome back to Sparkman Homestead. My name is Krista. I've had a really busy morning so far today. I had to go out to the Amish and pick up my weekly gallon of milk, and then I also made a gallon of granola, and I made some sourdough bread for us to have for the next couple of days. But I have some other pretty big tasks planned for the day. I have been craving hummus lately, and I actually don't have any canned chickpeas. So last night I took out 3 pounds of dried chickpeas, and they have been soaking overnight in a couple tablespoons of vinegar, just to kind of help with the digestibility of the beans. I'm kind of following 2 separate recipes to do this canning today. One of the recipes that we will be following is from this book. So pretty much what I did is I took a recipe that I found online at the Prairie Homestead, and I used the beginning part of that recipe as far as soaking the beans, but now I'm going to use this recipe kind of to finish off and get them canned. So one of the things that it says that we have to do next is we have to place them in a pot covered by at least 2 inches of water. We have to bring it to a boil, and we have to boil them for 30 minutes before we can can them. This is a pressure canner recipe because they are a low acid food. You do need to pressure can these, and they will be pressure canning because we are doing pint jars, so 1 hour and 15 minutes. Ooh, it's a long time. What we're gonna do while those beans are canning is we are actually gonna get our supper prepped for the night. Last night I took out some chicken legs and put them in the freezer to defrost, and we are going to do a barbecue chicken leg. I am going to do it in the oven though. I don't really feel like bringing them out to barbecue today because it's pretty windy. I did find a recipe on Pinterest, so I think what we will do with the chicken legs is we will just follow that direction because it sounds like it is a pretty good recipe, and we get to use our home canned barbecue sauce, so that is definitely a win. Let's get started on these chickpeas though. I have to take this bowl that has been soaking. These have really absorbed quite a bit of the water, so it suggests that we get these rinsed off, so we have to get that done. I also have some pint-sized jars in the sink here, and all they're doing is they just have warm water in them just to kind of get the jars warm. I am going to heat these jars up though, because when we need to put the beans in them, we are going to be putting them in a hot pressure canner with hot water, and we're putting hot beans in them. We need to make sure that these jars are hot. So I'm just going to get them warmed up and out of the way so that we can get these chickpeas drained. You know what I might do? I might divide these in half because I can't rinse these all out. There's too many in here. There we go. And then we'll put the rinsed ones in this clean pot here. I unfortunately do not have a big enough pot to do all of these in, so I have to do them in 2 separate pots. So what I'm going to do is fill this pot up with water with 2 inches above these, and then we're gonna get this starting to boil. So we have the beans. I just kind of divided them in between these 2 pots just so that it does give them a little bit of room when they come to a boil, because we have to simmer them for 30 minutes in here, and then we have to also cover them. And sometimes there's just a skin floating in here. Sometimes, always, my pots boil over, so I don't want to have them too full. So we're gonna just kind of keep an eye on this for the 30 minutes, and then we can get started with jarring them up. Canning beans is a fairly easy procedure. It's just that you've got to let them soak. In my experience, the best beans that I have canned are when I let them soak overnight with that vinegar. I find that they can up beautifully. Before I started letting them soak and just kind of following exactly what the Ball Blue book says by just doing like that 2-minute boil and then letting them sit, I would get rock hard beans. It wasn't until I started actually soaking them for the night that my beans started to really turn out beautifully after they were canned. They're not mushy, but they're not rock hard either. So this is just kind of the way that I do it. And I also realized that I don't have my apron on. So I also got a super fun thing in the mail today. I cannot wait to do this. It is from Stock Brothers. We got all of our strawberry bare roots. So we have been researching where to find some topsoil from because we need to get those beds filled back there. I'm going to do mulch on the bottom of the bed, then we're going to do a layer of topsoil, and then I'm going to put some compost on top of that, and then we will get those bare roots put in. It says, I looked up online, and it says that this is the best time to be putting them into the ground. So worked out perfect. So our first pot of beans has come to a boil. This is a thinner pot, so it does come to temperature a little bit quicker than this thicker bottomed pot. I'm just taking some of the foam that is building up on it. I'm just kind of scraping it off a little bit. And I'm going to turn this down. It says reduce it to a gentle boil. So we're gonna turn this down, and then we're gonna half put the lid on it, because what's gonna happen is this will overflow if I completely put the lid on right now because it's aggressively boiling. So we'll wait for it to come down a little bit, and then we will put the lid completely on it. And then we'll wait for this one to come to a boil also. And then we will start the timer of 30 minutes. Those beans have about 5 more minutes left of boiling before we have to get them canned up. I am just going to replace some of my hand soap. It's running low. All I did is I just went to the Dollar Tree and I bought some of these like foaming hand soaps. This is not what's in it. I dumped this as soon as I got home. The smell was like, it was overpowering with perfume smell. That just instantly gives me a headache. Anyways, so I emptied it out. I just bought them because I needed this container. What I do to make my hand soap is I just use this stuff, this Castile soap, and I just put about, I don't know, maybe 2 tablespoons of it in here, and then the rest I fill up with filtered water, and I'll show you guys. It is absolutely amazing. If you can see, but perfect foaming soap. And it smells amazing because this is this almond kind, and then it works so good. Gardening season, you guys probably can't hear me. Gardening season, I go through a lot of hand soap. So this I got on Azure Standard, and I believe it was $15 or $16. This is a lot. Like, there is a lot in here. This is a 32-ounce bottle. So I can get quite a bit of hand washes or hand soap out of one of these bottles. I've kind of gone around all of my bathrooms in my house and I've replaced every single one with those. What I like about that Dr. Bonner's one is they actually have different scents. So I'm going to get a rose water one next month because I kind of want to have a different variety, like, so they don't get bored with one scent. That one is amazing. It actually smells like almond extract. It's so good. So I just wanted to show you guys that hack while I'm waiting for these to finish. I'm going to actually probably get my hot jars out and get them all set up because that is almost ready. Once we get those pots off the stove, I actually have to get this pressure cooker on the stove and that water warming up in there. To wait until I have a free stovetop because that is using my 2 biggest burners right now, and this thing, it's a big pot. So once I get that pot off, then we will get this on the stove and going. The timer just went off, so we are going to remove these from the burners. I'm gonna actually keep this burner on over here because we're gonna get this water boiling up. You want to keep the cooking liquid in this pot because we're gonna can using this cooking liquid. I'm also set my kettle on because we're gonna boil some water in case there's not enough cooking liquid in this. Usually ends up happening. So I like to have hot water just available that I can just top the jars off with. I have my lids sitting in some boiling water here. Normally the ball canning lids you don't have to do that with, but I have found, because I am using the 4-jar lids, you do have to soak them in boiling water before you use them. I've got my funnel, I've got my hot jars, and then my ladle. So we just need to leave 1-inch headspace. And then just gonna top them off with some hot water. Now, I typically do not salt my stuff, but I am actually going to salt these because we're doing pint-sized jars. They need half a teaspoon of salt. Pretty much these chickpeas are going to be used for roasted chickpeas in the oven, or they're going to be made into hummus. So I kind of want them pre-salted. Just debubbling them right now, just making sure that we get all those air bubbles out so that there is the appropriate amount of headspace. This tool, I got it with the ball kit, and it actually marks and tells you where your headspace is. Another really cool trick is each one of these rims on the jars actually tells you your appropriate headspace. So for example, the very top one up here, that's going to be a 1/4-inch headspace. The middle one is going to be 1/2-inch headspace, and then this bottom one, that is 1-inch headspace. So that's kind of a quick way to tell if you have the appropriate amount. So we'll just set this one aside and fill this jar. I am really, really looking forward to these. I have not canned chickpeas before, so I'm hoping that they turn out. But I'm looking forward to being able to make hummus and just having beans on the shelf, because up until now, I've actually been buying all of my canned chickpeas, and they're expensive. This is a really good way to save some money. Plus, we're kind of in the down season right now. I mean, I'm getting my seeds started and doing all of that stuff, but being that we're in the down season, it gives me an opportunity to get stuff canned that, you know, I normally probably, salt, that I wouldn't probably get to can during the busy summer months. That's pretty much at its headspace right now. Bean popped out. Kind of want to make sure that they're all submerged. Okay, let's get these all canned up. We got them all filled up and all debubbled. So now I'm just taking some white vinegar and I'm just cleaning the rims. I've already checked the tops to make sure that there was no chips in them. Not too concerned with the top because it's pretty clean. I'm just putting water over top of it. This isn't really a sticky thing to can, but I also don't want like any chickpeas stuck to the top or anything. Just make sure they're all cleaned. And now we are going to take our lids and just put them on top. And now we're just gonna take our jar rings and put them on, and then we're gonna just tighten them to fingertip tight. So it's just doing this without really forcing it. You don't want it too tight. These jars are very hot. We already have our water good and hot in here, so now we're just going to add these jars in. I also just turned the burner up to about a medium high just to get this water boiling back up again. Well, not boiling, but just to temperature. Sneeze won't get my rack. The one thing I love about this Presto canner is that I can double stack things. As long as you have a tray in the middle like this, you can double stack. So 3 pounds of dried chickpeas made 12 pints of canned chickpeas. So that's kind of good to know. I'm gonna maybe leave a note of that in my fall canning book, just so that I know next time I make them how many jars roughly to get out. So I'm gonna get the lid on this, and I've already checked my seal and everything just to make sure that it's good. Actually, I'm gonna just twist it on. And then what we're gonna do is we are going to wait for the pressure to build on this. This thing will just pop up once the pressure is built, and then we will put the weighted gauge on it and bring it up to pressure. I absolutely love this pressure canner. It is a really good pressure canner for somebody that is just starting out. However, I really, really want one of those electric pressure canners, because I have to now sit here and babysit this for 1 hour and 15 minutes just to make sure that it does not drop below the 10 pounds of pressure that I need for my area. That's the other thing. When you are canning using the pressure canner, you have to check what your altitude is. That is what the amount of pounds of pressure that you will need to have for your area. I believe this cookbook and the other ball cookbook have a chart on them that actually shows you and tells you what amount of pressure you need for your altitude that you are in. And I just found my altitude by just putting in my zip code online and just saying, what is my altitude for this zip code? And it just popped right up online. If I'm gonna be in the kitchen, I would rather be in the kitchen doing something than just sitting there watching that thing, making sure it doesn't go below. So we will come back once that's to pressure, and then we will get started on our barbecue chicken legs. This has a minute left. If you can see, I don't know if you can tell or not, it's been going for about 10 minutes. So once it beeps, we're gonna put the weight on, and then we're gonna watch this thing come all the way up to 10 pounds of pressure. I am just making myself a yerba mate tea right now. I am feeling very, very sluggish and very, very tired. I haven't been on coffee for, this is now I think my 2nd month with no coffee, and guys, I am feeling absolutely amazing. I drink this every morning and it is super delicious. When I first went off of coffee, I would put cream with this just to kind of, you know, kind of make it feel like I was drinking a coffee in a way. But now I just drink it. I put some in my little herbal ball here and let it soak for 10 minutes. The other thing that I actually wanted to do with you guys today, and I don't think I'm gonna have time. Oh, we need to put the lid on. You heard it beep. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna plop that weight on. And now this gauge will start moving up. And once it gets to 11 pounds of pressure, we can start our timer for the 1 hour and 15 minutes. I am going to bring this down to about a 4. When I'm watching it build pressure, I actually slowly lower my eye temperature. Because my stovetop, I've learned with this pressure canner, it has to run at like almost just slightly above low in order to keep it at 11 pounds of pressure. So while it's building pressure, I slowly turn the heat down gradually so that it's not like a big shock, because I don't want siphoning. So that's just what I do. So I'm gonna just stand here and just kind of babysit it until it comes to pressure. And then I'm gonna let my tea soak, and then hopefully that'll give me a little bit more energy to get through the rest of the day, because we still have to make that delicious supper. So I don't know if you can see, but it's come to pressure now. So I have my 75 minutes timer going. I am actually just printing out a recipe right now. I found a recipe online for Spam, for canned Spam, to do it myself. So I am just printing it out. It may be something that we potentially try in the future. Steven absolutely loves Spam, and I will not buy it because I don't necessarily like some of the stuff that's in it. So if I could make my own option, that would be absolutely amazing, because I have to admit that Spam fried with fried egg it's pretty good. So I'm just printing the recipe out. I'm gonna take a look at it a little bit more in detail and see if it's something that I wanna try, and then potentially we may be doing that in the future. I was starting to tell you something before that I don't think I'm gonna have time to do it today, but I purchased some dandelion root from Azure Standard. I think it was last month, maybe the month before. And the reason I purchased it is because I have heard that it is an amazing coffee alternative. If you take the roots and you roast them, I've heard that it is a little bit of a bitter taste, but it tastes like coffee. So I thought we would be able to get to do that today, but unfortunately I don't think time is necessarily going to be on my side today to get that done. But that may be a future video because I do want to experiment with that. The one thing that I have heard though with the dandelion root is that it is a diuretic. So I think I want to experiment with it, but unfortunately I don't think today is going to be that day. So we're gonna sit here, I'm gonna print out this recipe. Once I get this recipe all written down, I would normally print it out on my computer, but my printer ink is all out and I don't have extra money this month to go and buy printer ink because that stuff is expensive. So I'm doing the old school way and I have my notepad and my pen out and I am writing it out because I like to have recipes handwritten or printed out on the computer versus me trying to look on my tiny little phone. It's just easier for me to have it on the piece of paper. So I'm just gonna get that done and then we will come back and I promise you we will then get the barbecue chicken started. We need to get these chickens marinating because they need about 30 minutes to marinate. So we are just gonna get the dry rub started right now. So we need to add 2 tablespoons of onion powder. And I'm adding just a slight bit more because the recipe calls for 4 pounds of chicken drumsticks. And I think I'm using a little bit over 4 pounds of chicken legs. So I'm just making a tad bit more of this seasoning. So then we also need 2 tablespoons of garlic powder. And then we need 2 tablespoons of chili powder. Oh, I almost put that amount of cayenne in. Oh no. 2 tablespoons of smoked paprika. I about just put 2 tablespoons of cayenne pepper in here. That would have been a little intense. So it's gonna be smoked paprika that we're doing 2 tablespoons of. And we're gonna do a little pinch of cayenne pepper. The original recipe that I'm actually following does not call for cayenne pepper, but we're gonna add it just for a little bit of heat. And then we need 1 tablespoon of ginger, 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of pepper, and then we're just gonna mix this together. And we're gonna get our chicken out and we are going to rinse it off and pat it dry. So we have all of our chicken cleaned, and when I actually did my chickens, I took the skins off. We are not a super big fan of the skin, so I just remove it when I'm processing the birds. The only time I'll leave the skin on is if I'm leaving the actual chicken whole. So let's get these dusted with this dry rub. We're gonna do the front and the back, and then we are gonna put these back into the fridge for about 30 minutes for them to kind of get it all absorbed. Because they don't have the skin on, I really want to heavily season this because that skin does add a nice flavor to it. So because we're lacking in that, we're just gonna season these really good. Okay, perfect. So these are gonna sit in the fridge for 30 minutes. So I think as a side with dinner tonight, we are going to just have some canned carrots, and then I am going to make kind of like a butter noodle. It's pretty much just, I'm just grabbing some carrots. It's just noodles with a little bit of Parmesan and butter. So I think it'll be a nice light side to have with that chicken, and then we'll just have our canned carrots also with that. So we're just gonna wait for that to finish, and when that is finished, then I will come back and show you what they look like coming out of the canner. And then hopefully by the time those are done, the chicken is done and we can move on to the next step. All right, so I just took the canner off of the element, because it is done canning, but it is still coming down from pressure, so we have to wait until that comes down from pressure and then leave it for 5 minutes, take the lid off, or leave it for 10 minutes, take the lid off, then leave it for another 5 minutes, and then we finally can take them out and see how the canned chickpeas look. I have the oven preheated right now at 350. So we are going to put these chicken in and we are going to bake them for 40 minutes. I have a baking sheet out here with a cooling rack on top of it. We are going to set the chicken on top of this cooling rack. And then every 10 minutes for the next 40 minutes, we are going to come and we are going to flip the chicken. What this is doing is this is just making sure that the chicken is getting crispy on both sides of it. So it is kind of an intense recipe as far as like babysitting it. But the way I think about it is this would kind of be the same thing if I was outside grilling it. I would have to keep, woo! We almost dropped it. I would have to keep going out and turning it on the grill anyway, so I'm just doing everything inside. So let's get these in the oven. And then we're gonna set the timer for 10 minutes. Now you notice we didn't put any barbecue sauce on those yet. So what we're gonna do is we do this turning thing for 40 minutes. Then it says, lightly brush the chicken with barbecue sauce, flipping 10 minutes and adding a fresh coat every time you flip it. So we've cooked it for 40 minutes and then we come back and then for another 30 minutes, then we do the flipping with the barbecue sauce. So in total, this is in the oven for quite some time, but I think it's gonna turn out pretty yummy and crispy. So I'm excited to taste it. And guess what? We get to use our own barbecue sauce that we made up too. We're gonna be using our mock Sweet Baby Ray's with this. I think I have a little bit left. I do. I have a little bit left in here that we have to get used up. But the recipe actually calls for 2 cups of barbecue sauce. So I'm gonna have to end up opening up a new one also because I don't think this will be enough, but we'll see. This is definitely not 2 cups. This is maybe a 1/4 cup in here. So we'll have to open up a new one. So I'm gonna go back in the pantry and get another barbecue sauce so that we have it available when we need it. So 10 minutes, we'll be back to do the first flip. Remember I showed you when I was in the greenhouse all of the blackbirds? Well, they're all over there again. And I was just out here banging pots and pans because my whole pasture was covered in black. There was like probably, I would say at least 2,000 birds out there. Our city right now is actually, they have somebody that drives through our downtown. And he fires off kind of like I don't know, it's like a warning shot kind of to scare all of the birds away from the city. And we don't live in the city, we live just outside of it, probably 5 minutes outside of it. And all of the birds come this way. So I was just out here banging pots and pans to try to scare them away because it makes my chickens aggravated when there's that many of them. And then I even heard my neighbor, one house down, he actually went and got a shotgun and fired off a shot because they just poop on everything. Like, I mean, guys, there is thousands of them. Like, I don't know if you can hear it in the background. It's just insane. And when we had that huge chicken flu going on with the wild birds, I was paranoid because we had so many wild birds here. But yeah, I don't know what to do because the city keeps pushing them out this way and then they just overtake our yards. So it's I just don't know what to do. And I know that it's nature, but there's just a lot of them. Looks like they are kind of all going, you can see them over there, they're kind of all going to the pasture over there. Okay, we have to do our second flip. I tried to record it the first time, but I forgot to press the record button. So we are going to flip them for this second time. Also, our pressure canner finally came down to pressure. So we just set the timer for 10 minutes, which is perfect. So we will let this sit for 10 minutes and then I will take the weight off of it. I don't want to do it before just in case it hasn't completely come down from pressure. It's just a safety thing. They recommend you kind of wait 10 minutes. So come back and do that. So we're gonna take the lid off now. Very careful, it's super hot. And then we're gonna let this sit in here for probably about 10 more minutes. I could hear them in there popping. So I know that at least some of the jars popped. Looks like we have a little bit of siphoning. So we just did our final flip on the chicken, our final flip before we actually put the barbecue sauce on. So when it dings, it's got 7 more minutes. When it dings, then we get to start putting the barbecue sauce on it. And again, we're just gonna use our home canned Sweet Baby Ray barbecue sauce. I emptied the can that we had that was in the fridge that had about a 1/4 cup, and then I dumped some of a new can in here. I just don't want to be sticking a brush into a new can and then touching chicken with it, so I just separated it and put it in this bowl. So once that dings, then we get to start putting the barbecue sauce on. It smells really, really good. Okay, we're gonna do our first barbecue sauce. So I'm gonna flip these. Now we're gonna coat them with barbecue sauce. And I'd imagine because this recipe calls for 2 cups of barbecue sauce, that it wants you to like really, really just coat it really well. Now we're gonna set the timer for 10 minutes and then we'll come back and we'll do this 2 more times, and then it says once you've done that 2 more times, then turn it on to broil and broil it for 2, what did it say? Double check here. 2 minutes on each side, and then it says to serve immediately, but it is only not even 4 o'clock, so we are obviously not gonna eat at 4 o'clock. What I'm thinking of doing is actually not doing the broiler part. I'm thinking about just turn the oven off and just leave it in there. I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna do yet. So we'll just do the other 2 flips and then we'll figure it out from there. So Stephen just got home and he actually brought home another crate for us to make another raised garden bed back there, because as I showed you guys earlier, we got our bare roots today for our strawberries, and we needed to have another bed out there because, like I said, I wanted to do the 3 beds with the strawberries in it. So he is out there building me the bed right now. So I think what I'm gonna do is I am going to do this on broil. So I'm gonna do broil 1 minute, flip them, do broil for another 2 minutes on the other side, and then I'm gonna take them out of the oven, and then when we're gonna eat supper, I'll just reheat them because I want to go out there and help him with getting that bed done. It's kind of sometimes a 2-person job, but I will come back, and then we have the rest of these noodles. These are just some noodles that we made a while ago, so we're just going to use up the rest of them. They're just little tiny, like kind of broken pieces, so they're not long noodles at all. It'll just be like little bite-sized noodles. So what I'm going to make with this is just that buttered noodle. And then we got our carrots out of the pantry, so we're gonna have those. And then I made the sourdough this morning, so that's gonna be our supper tonight. I unfortunately do not have a dessert. I really like to have like a sweet treat after supper, and it doesn't necessarily need to be something with sugar. So maybe tonight I will have some applesauce after supper, because I didn't make a little treat you guys, but that's okay. Lots more videos with lots more treats. So I will come back when it's time to kind of get these noodles all made, and then we can make the noodles together, and then I will show you what everything looks like plated up. So I'm gonna go out there and help him right now while well, it's only 4 o'clock, so the sun's gonna be up probably for another hour and a bit. Okay, we are back in, and I just got out of the shower. I completely ate it outside. My foot got caught in a mud hole out there when I was putting one of the beds back there, and I face planted into mud. So I needed to go in the shower. I like scraped my elbow up, and anyways. So I have the carrots that I just heated up. These are our canned carrots, and I just am boiling the noodles right now. I actually think that they're done, so I'm going to get them strained out. I am going to put in quite a bit of butter in this. This is called butter noodles. So we're gonna put the butter in and we're gonna melt it. And then we're gonna add some salt and pepper to this. And then we're also gonna add some Parmesan cheese. So let's get the butter all melted in here. I don't know how much butter that was, maybe a 1/4 cup of butter. I should have reserved some of the pasta water, but I didn't think of it. I'm just gonna add like touch of milk just to kind of thin it out a bit because it is pretty thick. These noodles are like, they were the last of the bag, so there was quite a bit of like flour and stuff in there, so they're pretty thick noodles. And then we're gonna add the Parmesan cheese. Again, I'm thinking maybe 1/4 cup, 1/3 cup of Parmesan cheese. And then we'll put in about a teaspoon of salt and then about a teaspoon of pepper. Stir these up. And then we'll give them a taste and see what else we need to add. Okay, so the noodles are done. Just turn that burner off. I just checked all of our canned chickpeas that we canned today, and all of them sealed, so super happy about that. So I'm gonna leave them cool there for probably about 12 hours. In the morning, I'm gonna take the rings off, wash the jars, and then put them in my pantry. And potentially tomorrow I might even make hummus because I was really craving hummus. So that does it for tonight. I will come back and show you guys what our dinner looks like all plated up because I'm really looking forward to trying that chicken. I will also leave that recipe for you guys linked below if you want to give it a try. It smells really, really good. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I hope you have a great day or night whenever you're watching this, and I will see you on the next video. Bye guys. So there is day 53's meal of the pantry challenge. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks again for watching, guys.